Hey everyone, it's Shark Week, and since I reviewed the first Jaws movie last year for Shark Week, I think it's more than appropriate enough to look at the sequels. And like with Jaws, I reviewed the sequels originally on my first channel, AlexG8462, which I now use for video blogs, but since I've improved over the years, I think it's time I go ahead and review the sequels in a more professional manner, I guess. So let's start with Jaws 2. Making a sequel to Jaws, one of the most influential and one of the greatest movies of all time, is damn near impossible. Oh wait, you know what? I should take that back. It is impossible because they've tried 3 times, and all 3 times they've failed to make a good sequel. But let's start with 2. The plot here is just as simple as it was in the first movie. Another shark comes to Amity Island and starts causing a rampage through the island, and it's up to Chief Brody to stop it. But this time he's alone because Hooper is out on an expedition and Quint is, well, dead. Whenever the Jaws sequels are brought up in a conversation, everyone loves to mention Jaws 3D and Jaws the Revenge right away at the snap of a finger. But what about Jaws 2? Nobody ever seems to mention Jaws 2 whenever you talk about Jaws sequels, and I think I know why. When you actually look at Jaws 2, it's kind of forgettable. It's not as horrible as the sequels are, Jaws 3 and Jaws 4, but it's not as influential as Jaws 1. Nowhere near as influential as Jaws. Unlike the first Jaws movie, you don't really care about the characters featured in this movie, except for one. The bulk of this movie is the shark going after a bunch of sailing teens around Amity. And when I said like that, your brain automatically thinks, this sounds like a teen slasher movie, and it kinda is. The shark just acts as a slasher villain, going around killing teens, and you just don't care. I mean, the first Jaws had really great, interesting characters. You actually cared about what was going on with those guys. This one, it's just like, yeah, okay, I don't care about these teens, and I don't know why I should. This aspect of the movie, making it feel like a teen slasher movie, wouldn't be too bad if it weren't for the fact that it had to follow up Jaws, one of the most influential movies of all time, because when you look at Jaws, Brody, Hooper, and Quint feel like real people. These, I guess they feel like teens from the 70s, but it's just like you don't care, like I said before. Although there is that one dude that looks like Napoleon Dynamite, but that's really not worth mentioning. It's just a guy that looks like Napoleon Dynamite, except not as God. But, and moving on. Another thing that makes the film a little less scary is that you see the shark a lot in this movie. With the first Jaws movie, everyone knows the story behind the first Jaws movie. The shark didn't work 99% of the time, so Spielberg decided, hey, let's make the camera the point of view of the shark. So what made Jaws scary is the sense of what you can't see, and for a bulk of that first movie, you can't see the shark, which makes that movie, combined with many other elements, that much scarier. Since director Jeannot Szwarc, I think that's how you pronounce it, wanted to show as much of the shark as possible, it just loses all suspense, and it especially doesn't help that half of the shark's face is burnt off. In probably the most exciting sequence in the entire movie, the shark attacks a water skier and then goes to attack the boat that the water skier was on, but the driver of the boat pours gasoline on the shark and herself for some reason. I don't know, it looked like she was pouring it on herself. Then shoots a flare, so the shark retreats as the one side of its face is being burnt. So throughout the whole movie, you just see this fake-looking shark with half of its face burnt, and it just doesn't look real. I mean, the shark looks, I guess, a little better than the first animatronic shark, but because you see it so often, it just feels like it's a lot more fake. But I want to switch gears, because unlike Jaws 3D and Jaws the Revenge, Jaws 2 actually has some good things about it. Roy Scheider is back in the movie, and he's the only likable character in the movie. He does a good job for not wanting to come back to the movie. This is one of those movies where there was a lot of on-set drama between him and the director, and Roy Scheider was really reluctant to come back because he was like, look, if I come back, people are just going to want to see the shark and not me. And again, for not really wanting to be in this movie, he did do a good job with what he had to do. It's just a shame it was a mediocre movie. John Williams' score, it's very different from the first movie and not as good, not as nowhere as Oscar worthy as the first score, but I kind of like it. And again, this was at this point where John Williams is fully established as a great composer after doing Jaws and Star Wars, because this came out in 1978. I also like how the shark's death is a lot more realistic when you compare it to the other movies. Jaws will always have the best climax of all the movies, but Jaws 2 was at least different. And then when you get to Jaws 3 and 4, yeah, we'll save that for another time. But, okay, so bottom line, Jaws is one of the greatest films ever made that still is talked about today. Jaws 3 and 4 are always talked about because of how shitty they are. Jaws 2, it's just okay. There's nothing about it that's spectacularly bad, but there's also nothing that's worth mentioning in a conversation. It's just a generic teen slasher movie with a shark. So in that sense, it's not really a terrible movie. It's just bad in the sense that it had to follow Jaws. Now, here's a statement I'm going to get flack for, but this is like Cars 2, where when you look at Cars 2, it's not really terrible or awful, even bad in my opinion. But the reason to say Cars 2 is bad is because it's from Pixar and had to follow Toy Story 3. Similar to Jaws 2, I don't think it's a super bad movie, but the reason to say it's bad is because it had to follow one of the most influential movies ever made. So I don't really recommend it, but if you must, watch at your own risk. It has some amusing things about it, but that's about it. It's nothing really worth seeing. And that's my review for Jaws 2. Leave a comment, tell me what you thought of the movie, subscribe to my channel for more stuff in the future. You can check out my video blog channel, AlexG8462. You can find links to my Twitter, Facebook, Tumblr, and Instagram accounts on this YouTube page. Go check me out on letterboxd.com under the name Mr. Robinson, and go check out my written reviews on Geeked Out Nation. Share me with your friends and tell them about me, and remember to know it before you see it. This is the real Mr. Robinson telling you there is only one. I'll see you guys later.